If you're over 60 and struggling with poor leg circulation, you've probably been told the same thing 100 times. Walk more. And that advice isn't wrong. Walking is genuinely good for you, so keep doing it. But there's one specific action that actually forces blood out of your lower legs and back up toward your heart, and plain walking barely touches it. I'm Dr. William Lee. Over the years, I've treated many people who did everything right. They walked daily. They propped their legs up at night. They wore whatever compression socks their doctor gave them. And they still came into my office with cold feet, ankles swollen by evening, an aching burn in the calves, and that dizzy, unsteady feeling when standing up too fast. They were putting in the effort. The problem wasn't going away, and nobody could tell them why. Here's what most people are never told. Poor circulation after 60 isn't a minor inconvenience to just tolerate. When blood flow in the legs slows down, small cuts and scrapes take far longer to heal. Left unchecked, they can turn into infections, and in serious cases, that leads to loss of toes or even a foot. It's also one of the earliest warning signs that the heart and arteries are under real strain. By age 70, roughly 1 in 5 adults has some degree of peripheral artery disease, a narrowing of the arteries that supply the legs, and most of them don't even know it yet. So this is worth understanding properly. Before you scroll past, assuming you already know this, keep walking, keep elevating your feet, keep drinking your water. Just give me a couple of minutes. Because the reason your feet are still cold at night has very little to do with your daily step count. It comes down to one muscle almost nobody thinks about. And once you learn how to activate it, the fix is much simpler than you'd expect. Your second heart, the calf pump. Here's the muscle in question, your calf. Doctors refer to it as the calf muscle pump, and plenty of people call it your second heart, which isn't just a nice phrase. Every time your calf tightens, it presses down on the deep veins running through your lower leg and physically forces blood upward against gravity back toward your chest. Tiny one-way valves inside those veins snap shut right behind each push, so the blood can't slide back down. That's the pump, your second heart, working every single time you take a step. The issue is what happens to that pump as you get older. Vein walls grow weaker and looser. The valves start to leak. The calf muscle itself shrinks and loses strength, especially if you spend much of the day sitting, which most of us do, so the pump slows. And when it slows, blood pools at the ankles instead of rising. Swelling worsens. Feet grow colder. The skin there starts running low on oxygen. And the less you move, the weaker the pump becomes, which makes you move even less. It's a slow downward spiral, and a surprising number of people are somewhere on it without realizing. Now here's the encouraging part. Fixing this has nothing to do with your step count. It comes down to a handful of specific movements that physically push blood back where it belongs. I'm going to walk you through 5 of them, counting down from 5 to 1. Each one builds on the last, and I'm saving the single most effective movement for the very end. The one-movement vascular rehabilitation programs around the world rely on more than any other to restore healthy blood flow after 60. If you only remember one thing from this, let it be movement number 1. But you'll appreciate it far more once we build up to it together. Before we start, let me tell you about a patient I'll call Margaret, a composite of several people I've cared for over the years, so no one's privacy is at stake. Margaret was 72, quick-witted, still driving, still hosting her grandchildren every weekend. But her feet were cold every night, even in summer, and her ankles puffed up like dough by dinner time. She'd faithfully walked a mile a day for years and was quietly devastated that it wasn't helping. Keep Margaret in mind, because what eventually changed things for her is the whole point of this video. Let's begin the countdown at number 5. Movement 5, ankle pumps. This one seems almost too basic to matter, and that's exactly why people skip it. It's often the very first movement given to patients recovering from leg surgery before they're even allowed to stand, precisely because it prevents blood from pooling while they heal. The mechanism is simple. Flexing your foot up and pointing it down contracts and releases the calf. and that motion squeezes the veins and moves blood that's been sitting stagnant near the ankles. A 2025 review in the Journal of Orthopedic Surgery and Research pooled 16 randomized trials and found that basic ankle pumping improved upward blood flow and reduced lower leg swelling in older adults. No standing, no walking required to do it. Sit with your feet flat on the floor. Lift your toes toward your shins while keeping your heels planted. Then reverse it, press your toes down and lift your heels like easing onto a gas pedal. Slow and controlled. That's 1 repetition. Aim for 20 to 30 reps, 2 or 3 times a day. Do it while watching TV, reading, or waiting for the kettle to boil. It costs you nothing. Think about how much time you spend sitting in the car, at the table, in your evening chair, all of it time your pump sits idle while blood settles in your feet. Ankle pumps switch it back on without you even standing up. Walking relies on momentum. You fall forward and catch yourself repeatedly, and your calves barely get a full squeeze. Ankle pumps force a genuine contraction and push. That means warmer feet, less swelling, and less strain on fragile veins. It's also one of the safest starting points if pain, poor balance, or fatigue keep you from being on your feet very long, but ankle pumps only wake the system up. The next movement targets the larger muscles higher up the leg. Movement 4. The seated leg extension, sitting down, might make this sound easy. Your legs will tell you otherwise about 10 seconds in. Straightening your leg out in front of you and holding it engages the large muscles across the front of your thigh and hip. Those are the exact muscles you rely on to stand up from a chair, climb stairs, or catch yourself before a fall. When they contract, they press on the large veins running through the thigh and help push blood out of the leg. Regular walking barely challenges those muscles enough to slow the natural decline that comes with age. Here's why this matters. Geriatric specialists track something called gait speed, simply how fast you walk. It's sometimes called the 6th vital sign, right alongside pulse and blood pressure, because walking speed predicts fall risk, independence, and even longevity. When walking slows, it's often one of the earliest signs the body is quietly losing ground. Strengthening the muscles that carry you is exactly how you protect that ground. To do it, sit tall in a sturdy chair, back against the seat, feet flat on the floor. Slowly lift one leg straight out in front of you, knee as straight as is comfortable. Hold for 2 seconds, then lower it back down slowly. Don't let the foot drop. That's 1 repetition. Do 10 to 15 reps on one leg, then switch sides. The detail almost everyone misses. Keep your back firmly against the chair so you can't cheat using momentum. That's what forces the right muscles to actually do the work, and that's where the circulation benefit comes from. As it gets easier, add light resistance, an ankle weight or resistance band. Even 1 or 2 pounds makes a real difference. Muscle responds to gentle, steady load at any age, and older adults often improve faster than expected simply because they're starting from further back. This movement builds the strength that keeps you walking and moves blood through the upper leg in a way ankle pumps alone never reach. But even strong thighs won't help if your balance system isn't firing properly, which is exactly where we go next. Movement 3, the supported calf raise. This movement trains circulation and balance at the same time, and balance is what quietly determines whether someone keeps their independence or slowly loses it. The National Institute on Aging is clear that keeping the lower body muscles strong is one of the best ways to preserve mobility as you age, to keep rising from chairs, off the couch, and up the stairs without needing help. Your calves sit right at the center of that. Every contraction squeezes the deep veins and forces blood upward against gravity. Weak calves mean pooling blood, worsening swelling, and slower balance reactions, meaning an ordinary stumble is more likely to become an actual fall. To do it, stand behind a sturdy chair or at a kitchen counter, hands resting lightly for balance, feet about hip width apart. Rise slowly onto the balls of your feet, lifting your heels as high as comfortable. Pause at the top for 2 or 3 seconds, eyes forward rather than down. Then lower yourself slowly over a full 3 seconds. That slow tempo and pause at the top is where the real benefit happens. It trains your calf muscles and balance system to fire together, which is exactly what your body needs when catching itself mid-stumble. Start with 10 reps, building toward 20 to 25 over time. Within a few weeks, this single movement improves ankle stability, circulation, and reaction speed, all without stressing the knees or hips. For many patients, this is the movement that first makes them feel steady on their feet again, but standing on 2 feet is the easier version. The next movement takes one away. Movement 2. The single leg balance. Don't dismiss this as just balance with nothing to do with blood flow. Here's the number that made me take it seriously. In 2022, researchers publishing in the British Journal of Sports Medicine followed more than 1,700 adults over several years. They found that people who couldn't stand on one leg for just 10 seconds had an 84% higher risk of dying during the follow-up period compared to those who could. 84%. And among adults in their early 70s, fewer than half could pass that simple test. A 10-second balance check predicted more about long-term health than almost anything else measured. You can try this right now carefully with a counter or sturdy chair nearby. Stand tall, one hand near something to grab if needed. Lift 1 foot an inch or 2 off the floor and see if you can hold steady for 10 seconds without grabbing on. That's both the test and the exercise. The reason it helps circulation comes down to time. The moment you stand on one leg, your calf, ankle, hip, and core all have to contract continuously to keep you upright. That sustained squeeze keeps the pump running the whole time, pushing blood up instead of letting it settle. Ordinary walking never demands that. You're on 1 foot for a split second before you're off it again. Standing on one leg keeps the pump switched on, and this is exactly where circulation and fall prevention overlap. When balance declines, people move less. When movement drops, circulation slows, swelling rises, feet ache more, and confidence fades. The same downward spiral mentioned earlier. To train it, stand near a counter or wall, one hand resting lightly for safety. Shift your weight onto one leg and lift the other foot just an inch off the floor. No need to lift it high. Stand tall, eyes forward, toes relaxed rather than gripping the ground. Hold for 20 to 30 seconds, breathing normally, then switch legs. That's one set. Start with 2 rounds per side. As it gets easier, rest your hand more and more lightly on the counter until you can eventually hover it just above the surface. That longer, steadier squeeze keeps blood moving and retrains your nervous system to react faster if you trip. But balance alone doesn't fully restore flow. For that, you need the strongest version of the calf pump there is. Movement number 1. Movement 1. The standing calf pump hold. This is the movement I promised at the start, and once you understand what it does inside your leg, you'll see why vascular rehab programs worldwide rely on it almost like a prescription. It looks like the calf raise from movement 3, with one small difference that changes everything: the hold. You rise onto the balls of your feet, and then you stay there. Your calves act like pressure pumps, and holding at the top keeps that pump fully squeezed long enough to actually clear blood that's been stalling around the ankles and drive it back toward the heart. Ankle pumps wake the system up. The single leg hold trains control. This movement moves the blood and keeps it moving. The evidence is solid. In a randomized trial published in the Journal of Vascular Surgery, people with genuinely poor leg circulation who followed a program built around calf raise exercises were able to walk significantly farther before pain set in. Their pain-free walking distance improved by dozens of meters, and total walking distance by nearly 100 meters, with no medication and no equipment involved. That's the calf pump doing exactly the job it was built for. Here's how to do it safely. Stand behind a chair or counter, hands resting there for balance, feet about hip-width apart. Rise slowly onto the balls of your feet, heels lifting as high as comfortable. Hold for 3 to 5 seconds at the top, breathing normally, eyes forward. Then lower yourself back down slowly, taking about 3 seconds. That's 1 repetition. Start with 8 to 10 reps, building over time to 15 or 20. Always controlled, never rushed. The hold is the entire point. That sustained squeeze keeps the pump fully engaged, drives blood upward, reduces swelling, and strengthens the exact muscles your body relies on when catching itself from a stumble. Because there's no jumping or pounding involved, it's gentle enough for most people with arthritis or shaky balance, as long as one hand stays on the counter. What changed for Margaret? Here's what shifted for Margaret, because this is where it all came together. I had her stop fixating on her step count and instead do these 5 movements in order for about 12 minutes a day. Ankle pumps in her chair first thing in the morning, seated leg extensions, supported calf raises at the counter while her coffee brewed, balance holds, and finally the standing calf pump holds. I'll be honest about her results, because I always am. Her circulation didn't turn into that of a 30-year-old overnight, and I'd never promised that. But within a few weeks, her ankles stopped ballooning by dinner time. Her feet were warmer at night. And the thing she said mattered most. She stopped feeling like she might tip over when standing up from the couch. She felt steady again. For someone who'd been quietly afraid of falling, that changed everything. Before you go, one honest warning, because I'd rather you be safe than sorry. If you ever experience sudden severe pain in one leg, or a leg turns pale, cold, and numb out of nowhere, or you have a sore on your foot or ankle that simply won't heal, don't stay home doing exercises. Get it checked immediately. That can signal a seriously blocked artery, which is a medical emergency. Everything covered here is meant for slow, chronic, everyday circulation issues, not a sudden crisis like that. 5 movements to wake up your second heart and get blood moving back out of your legs. 5. Ankle pumps to wake the pump up. 4. Seated leg extensions to move blood through the thighs. 3. Supported calf raises for circulation and balance together. 2. The single leg hold for sustained squeeze and balance. 1. The standing calf pump hold, the most powerful of them all. Keep walking. It's wonderful, and I never want you to stop. But walking alone leaves a real gap, and these 5 movements fill it. Under 15 minutes a day, no cost, done entirely at home in front of the television. Your circulation is one of the few things about aging where you genuinely get a vote. This is how you cast it. Take good care of those legs of yours.